Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is the best game of all time. Ha! Joking, of course. I only said that to get your attention. My name's Mike, and these guys are Jake and Liam.
Hello.
Hiya.
It is pretty good, though, isn't it? It is quite good.
It's really good, yeah. It's really good. It's actually kind of following from your actual favourite game ever, Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, Dark Souls 3 did come out afterwards, but everyone kind of forgets that.
And it's good. I like Dark Souls 3 a lot.
Yeah, but it's not quite Bloodborne. And it's not Sekiro. So, what is Sekiro, mate?
This is very different to... From Software have been making pretty much variations on the same idea as a game since Dark Souls 1. They've been busy boys making...
Demon Souls, if you're going to be finicky about it, okay? Comment section. Calm down, mate.
Nah, fuck Demon Souls.
Right.
I'm joking, of course. I'm joking, of course.
Come from this. This is a man who's been studying the blade for a week.
I'm feeling very confident at the moment. No, Dark Souls, that's the one that propelled them in it, and that's what they.
Of course.
You think of From Software, I think Dark Souls are the first two words that come into a lot of people's heads.
Yeah.
But this is very different in a lot of ways. I mean, the gameplay is, as is well established by now, I suppose, very different in the sense that you've got a lot more freedom. It doesn't sort of gate you down strict corridors and channels like the other games do. This time you can just jump on a roof if you want to. You can even, top tip, jump in the water if you want to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a game changer, man.
It's not instant death.
Do you know what I did? I fell into, I jumped away from an attack into the water, put my controller down, started looking at Twitter, waiting for the death loading screen.
You hadn't died,
I hadn't died. So I looked up and I realised I was swimming.
Bobbing about.
Shit. Yeah. A lot's changed, basically, in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. The reviews have been out. It is very sort of positive stuff.
Like 92 on Metacritic.
Yeah.
Last time I checked.
Everyone, you've already got this if you're interested in it, I think. This feels like a day one buy for fans, unless you're waiting for payday or something.
Yeah.
If you just want to hear what we've got to say about it, that's what this video is, basically. I can't see us bringing much new to the table, but Liam has finished it.
I did, yeah.
Jake has almost nearly finished it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty much on the last boss. From what Liam said, I'm on the run-up to the final boss.
And I don't know how far I am, and frankly, I don't want to know.
Exactly. So this is going to be a very weird conversation because, I've seen pretty much all there is, apart from the reveal of the last boss.
It does feel like I was playing it until very late last night, and it did feel like I hit quite a major milestone in the game. So I kind of have a vague sense of where, I've been playing it for... it's difficult to say, but maybe about 15 hours, maybe.
Okay. Well, my save file's 18 hours.
Oh.
And I'm on the... So either I've done it really fast, which I doubt because I'm not great at the games, or...
I'll say 10 then.
Yeah, I think you're about 10 hours in, I
played 3, and then on Sunday I just played an awful lot, and then last night I played about 3 hours as well. So should we talk about where you are? No, because I don't want to spoil it for people who don't know.
Oh, really? But we're not going to talk about anything?
No, absolutely not. No,
okay.
I don't want to ruin this for anyone.
Okay.
So I guess that's the end of the video.
Yes.
No.
See you next time.
That's fair enough.
So given that both of you guys have sort of broken the back of it, you have got more to say than I have, I guess. So what do you feel towards this game in the context of like From Software and all the great games that they've provided?
Yeah.
How good is this one? And how much of a change did it feel like for you?
Right, Liam, you have earned first place here by finishing the game. So go on, man.
Straight away, you'll notice it's not really much of an RPG like Dark Souls is. There's no stat building, there's no character classes. You play as a shinobi ninja, and that's it.
Who's got a name?
Yeah, he's called Wolf.
A voice. Yeah. And he is a very well-established character already.
You can't be anyone else.
No.
You can't be a male wolf or a female wolf.
Yeah.
You're just one dude.
Or a magician wolf, or a tank knight wolf, or you're a shinobi, and that's the end of it.
So you've got the one play style, and you're stuck to that no matter what.
Yeah.
You can change it up slightly with your prosthetics.
Luckily, though, it is a fucking awesome play style, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But so straight away, it's a very different beast than Dark Souls or Bloodborne or whatever. It's more like a straightforward action game.
Yeah.
I think I said it to you guys where I said it immediately felt like playing Ninja Gaiden again rather than a Souls game.
Yeah, you did say that, yeah.
In sort of general gameplay difficulty, in what sense?
But, Ninja Gaiden is infamously hard to the point where it broke a lot of people just trying to get through it. And Sekiro is very similar to that. A lot of people online saying it's the hardest FromSoft game yet.
Yeah.
Some people think it's actually easier, but for the majority of people, there's a lot of them, they don't know if they want to even carry on with the game. It's that challenging.
Yeah.
Souls veterans that are saying this as well, which I think is quite interesting. Because it's
they're the people who've been saying get good for the last 10 years, which is
And
quite
now they
nice.
have to get good.
Yeah, it's because there's no iframes in it, really. I think that's interesting. They're so used to dodging. Yeah, so I guess it is different that way, action-wise.
It's more straightforward action than RPG.
Yeah. Having said that, there's skill trees, there's stuff to unlock.
Yeah.
There is, you have an inventory, there's a lot of items to
You can
to
increase
manage.
your stats
Yeah.
slightly.
It's weird. It's really familiar in a lot of ways. Like, From Software make games in a certain way. So if there's a problem, you think, oh, this bad thing is happening now. I guess there's nothing I can do about that. A couple of conversations later, you've played it for another couple of hours, someone says, oh, I've got a solution to that problem that's been happening. It's a very rare solution. Here's one of them. Use it wisely, and so they have that idea where they'll just give you bad situations to deal with. Patterns like that are creeping up all over the place. They feel really familiar.
Yeah,
it feels exactly like Dark Souls in a lot of ways and stuff.
I really do see a lot more similarities than other people talking about it online. I'd say like the way that the world's handled. I mean, yeah, there are like basically repeatable dialogue bits that you can engage in to give yourself a little hint of where you need to go. Like, Wolf, we need to go to here or whatever, and then that your little master will say, or whoever, or the sculptor guy, whatever. There is still a bonfire mechanic. There's still the Estus flask mechanic, and the world's approached very much the same way. The door does not open from this side.
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
to go around.
Enemies
Exactly.
respawn.
Enemies respawn, and
Some of them don't.
Yeah, the way without giving too much away, the way that the world handles is closer to Dark Souls 1 than Dark Souls 2, I think.
Yeah.
I really think that it's not as far away as what people are making out. I think
It really isn't.
especially with the world, anyway. I mean,
No, for sure. And a lot of their just design ideas they're all over it. That's just the way they like to make games, and it's still there. Even though this is a game where you're very specifically a shinobi who there's a huge emphasis on stealth in it, much more than I was anticipating. Really,
God, yeah.
I love it. The stealth is like such a good solution.
Yeah.
In a lot of
It
situations.
can make or break you sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you sometimes have to, in a lot of the way, like in Bloodborne, sometimes I would take a step back and go, hang on a minute, I could parry this guy. I've been dodge rolling, I've been dodging and stuff so much, I forgot that I can parry certain ones are really, So that sort of happens here as well, where stealth becomes like an obvious answer sometimes if you're really struggling and stuff.
Of course,
But not just stealth. You get so many tools to use in this, without sort of spoiling what they are and how they behave and stuff. I have been making great use of the character has a prosthetic arm that you can like customize, and it's got different significant tools that do different things.
Yeah,
I've found great use out of them. Jake, you haven't so much.
no, not at all, really. So. Kind of how in like Bloodborne or something you've got, or in Dark Souls you've got like your second-hand weapon. This is kind of that. So your main weapon's always your katana, and the game really puts an emphasis on parrying, which unlike Dark Souls and Bloodborne, it has like a really nice way of dealing with parrying. It's like a deflect system. It's very forgiving. Loads of nice windows of opportunity. If you're a little bit slow, it still works. It's fantastic, and in fact, 90% of the challenges in the game that you face can be dealt with through deflection.
Yeah.
The 10%, of course, are like perilous attacks, which are undeflectable. I guess you can.
So you get a little Japanese character that comes up on the screen.
Yeah.
It'll be like an obvious big red. You better get out of the way.
And it could be one of 3 different types of attacks.
Yeah.
So one being a sweep, maybe, that you'll have to jump over.
Yeah.
Another like a straightforward thrust attack, which you can kind of step over or on, and then the other is like just get the fuck out of the way, mate. Move.
Yeah.
And the deflect is become so useful, and I feel like I've mastered it pretty much. Like I'm very confident in this game now. I feel very comfortable with it. I'm not hitting many roadblocks, and I feel like because of that, and because I've been training myself to get used to it, I've not been using the things which I consider quite gimmicky.
Yeah.
By gimmicky, I mean they're very, very useful, but it's like every time you sit at a bonfire, you get like 15 spirit emblems. I can't remember how many you get. And using your prosthetic tool uses this kind of currency, kind of like how in games you've got like a mana system, I guess. You can get these things back by killing enemies, but because of that, and because I know that it's not unlimited, I just keep thinking I'll save it till later till I really need it. Same with the items in this game. I'm not using any of the sugar or the balloons or anything.
In terms of how it behaves, the spirit emblems, they're loads like the Quicksilver bullets you get in Bloodborne, where you could use them for other stuff, but they were your ammunition. So you would shoot, you use them to shoot. And it depends. If you had a big cannon-y type thing, it uses all of them at once. But if you're using a pistol, it only uses one at a time. So that's how this tool behaves. If you're throwing a shuriken, then that's only one. But then if you're doing
you might have a different prosthetic that might only get 4 uses out of it because it's using like 3 or 4 at a time. So I've become completely unreliant on them and items. So I've used like one item to get rid of like terror, they call it, like from the Dark Souls things, like curse or whatever. And other than that, I don't use any of the items either. I'm probably not playing it as I'm using stealth and deflect, and that's it. Like, and I'm finding it pretty comfortable. Like, I don't think it's harder than the Dark Souls games. I'd say it's easier. I mean, the boss fights are hard as shit. Like, the boss fights are like the most insane boss fights in the From series, I think.
They're the star of the game as well, really, the boss fights.
Absolutely, and From games, they often are. Normally they're sort of drenched in lore. I'm not sure about this one, how much lore is going to be found later. And I've noticed some things in the environment that are like, oh, okay, I'm sure Varty Video is going to cover this later. But because the story is so straightforward with like cinematics and like genuine straight up dialogue and you're very clear what your mission is, I wonder just how much we're going to have to learn about certain people or whatever. But still, without this lore and without using the bosses as a main source of storytelling, they still become the star of the show. And if you Google the game or you look at any clips on YouTube, there's a very high chance it'll be like a rage compilation of people dying to the bosses. Bosses also feel the most fair that they have in a long time, I think. Now, this point hasn't been echoed by everybody, but like you can deflect nearly every attack, and like if you're clever, you can get through the whole thing without a single dodge.
Well, I think I said this to you guys in a text that the game tells you, this is a pro tip, right? Forget all other list tip videos, okay? Here's my top tip. Just do what the game tells you to do. Right at the beginning of the game, it says, press L1 to block, to deflect attacks. Almost all attacks can be deflected. And that's true. It doesn't matter how big or scary or whatever the thing is coming at you.
As long as there's no red Japanese symbol above its head.
Yeah.
You can
press L1, and you'll block it, and that is really basically From Software doing exactly what they did with Bloodborne and just completely subverting what people expect in terms of gameplay and creating a new challenge using very familiar and similar sort of ideas and that. They just completely changed the game again. Like with Bloodborne, it was you had to be aggressive. In Bloodborne, it was amazing because thematically, it was about blood and thirst for blood, and you wanted to, blood made you stronger, and that's all the themes in the game. And what do they make you do? They make you attack quicker and more aggressively when you take damage because you need to get your health back.
Yeah.
So you become like a wild animal that's like just trying to, ravage the enemies as quickly as possible because you need your health back. In this, you're a shinobi who are supposed to attack relentlessly and deflect attacks and stay out of the way and be a stealth. And that's what the game is. They tell you what the game is, and then that's what the gameplay is like. Dark Souls, because it's so flexible, they can't maybe afford to do that because you can play it as a tank, or you can play it as a wizard, or you can play it as a rogue or whatever. Yeah. In this, you're a shinobi, so all the mechanics reflect that, and they really do. And that is the fucking number one tip. Just press L1. Listen to what the game says.
Sure.
The game says press L1.
In case you just don't know, for some reason or another, you don't know why, it's because the game revolves around death blows, which is like one-hit kills, like a parry or a backstab in Dark Souls, but it kills everybody in one hit. Bosses have multiple health bars, and you can perform a death blow on an enemy in 2 ways. Sneaking up on them, which, as you can imagine, for a boss fight isn't possible. The other way is breaking their posture. It's kind of like an endurance sort of stamina bar, and every time you deflect a hit, it breaks their posture. Like, and when you don't deflect it, you're just blocking the hit. That doesn't take any of your health away. It'll affect your posture. And if you can build the posture meter up, you can do the death blow. So there'll be bosses with kind of low health and very high posture. So you might want to be whittling their health down. But there's other bosses with very, very, very high health, and the only way to really beat them is to whittle their posture down. So there's also those 2 bars that you got to keep an eye on. Very clever, very different mechanic than other From games. I think we did see something similar in Neo, to be honest, like the endurance bar. You could do a parry straight away. So I like to see their take on that. I think it was handled really well. I think it's the best combat in the Souls series by a long way.
I think the deflect thing is the best like sword fighting that I can remember, because it feels like a sword fight. It's like clanging, and it's not just like symbolic. You don't just know it's going to go somewhere. You're either attacking or you're deflecting. So it has a really natural sword fight thing, just using 2 buttons. with really high stakes.
Good rhythm to it.
Amazing, yeah, and that's like one of the key things of beating the bosses, you know. And again, you need to be patient and disciplined, which is exactly the kind of fucking character you're supposed to. You know, this is what I was talking about earlier with it. So the fact that they can make you behave in gameplay the way that, you know, it's just genius. It's just really good, and that's why I like From Software. Liam, what are your sort of having beaten the game, and you're the most qualified, I suppose, to speak, having finished it. I hesitate to ask really, but can you really say like if this is the best, like where this ranks?
Overall, I think it's a fantastic game. I had a wonderful time with it. Yeah, it was very rewarding, even though it felt like I was spending hours sometimes trying to fight bosses. But when you finally get that moment, it was so rewarding and amazing. Yeah. So I think it's a great game, but I'm not quite sure where I'd rank it among like From Software's best. Yeah. I'd probably say, I'm not sure, but I want to say it's better than Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, okay.
That's a good start.
Yeah. It's probably tied with Bloodborne for me. Okay. And then
as the greatest game of all time?
No, because Dark Souls 1 and 3 are probably tied for my favourite From Soft game. But
that's interesting. So your ranking is 1, 1, 2, 2, 3.
Pretty much. Yeah. So it's an excellent game, but I don't know. I think it might go down as probably one of their best, if not their best.
It's very flipping good. Jake, what are your overall?
Yeah, so I just obviously, I mean, I have to do it tonight, but Tenchu is where this game's roots lie, and I was
From Software were involved with that.
They certainly were. Acclaim and From Software
originally was going to be a Tenchu game, wasn't it?
Exactly, this was going to be a Tenchu game, but the people who originally made it had left, and they wanted to honour that. As a big fan of Tenchu as a kid, and a big fan of the Soul series, as an adult, I wanted this, and it's delivered. It's delivered. Unless they really mess up this last boss, you know what I mean? I can say like with absolutely no hesitation at all that this is the best game I've played in ages. Yeah. Resident Evil 2 was an absolute stomper, amazing. This is just perfection. Yeah. Like I can't fault it. Every time I get pissed off and die, when I figure out the moveset of an enemy, I'm like, oh my god, I can't think anything wrong with it. So I want to finish it before I can definitively say it, but it is up there, and especially considering I'm really into the original idea of it being a bit of a Tenchu kind of Souls crossover. Yeah. It's delivered, and the combat is insane. Yeah. I think it's going to ruin other combat systems for me, to be honest.
Last year, it was March, and I was very, very sure that God of War was the best game of the year at that point, and I sort of feel like that about this already.
I'm almost 100% sure that this will be the best, unless something mad happens.
Yeah. I just can't, based on what we've talked about, what I was saying earlier about the way it makes you behave and stuff, it's that sort of stuff that I really can't sort of, explain how good I think that is. And the same with Bloodborne. It's like I'm not very articulate with explaining what I mean, but the way that they make you behave like the character in a very natural way using strict gameplay mechanics and stuff is just, it's genius is what it is. It is genius. I reckon we should do a spoiler video when we've all finished it, and maybe people who watch these videos will have had a bit more time to play it, and maybe they could enjoy a spoiler video maybe next week. That was what we thought of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, in a very difficult conversation where we couldn't spoil anything for anyone, but we do like it.
Look forward to Sekiro Unchained next week, hopefully.
Requiem. Bye for now.